ordinary people can do extraordinary things so long as they're unionized.
SEIU has done more than any union in the history of the United States to make sure that low-wage workers got a fair shake on the job.
Vision, perseverance, commitment, and a belief in what you're doing is right, and a lot of hard work. That's really what it takes to be an organizer.
No one thought that home care workers could form a union.
We have accomplished so much with this union, moving and building people. You feel love, and that's what we want you to.
Even when I was a child, I always liked to make people happy. You know, it was just a part of my character, I guess you would say. I grew up here on the farm. It's a place that you can live the rest of your life out. So that they'll turn you my beans. Now that's what's nice there. Some hot pepper. You know how you buy slaw with the purple cabbage? That's that. I left Mississippi when I was 18 years old. I went to Chicago. I got something out of being a home care worker. If I could touch one person's life while living my life, then my life would have not been in vain.
Well, I came to Chicago in 1983 as part of United Labor Unions, which was a small independent union formed by Acorn, the community organization. In 1978, our union organized workers that other unions could not or would not organize, either because they thought they were too low income, they didn't want to organize women, African Americans, or Latinos.
But none of the larger unions or anybody didn't want to be bothered with us. We didn't know enough. So we just like babysitters.
When I first started in the labor movement, it was primarily seen as a movement that was for very highly skilled workers, highly paid workers, and it was a bit of an aristocracy. The early campaigns to organize janitors, to organize nursing home workers, and of course to organize home health workers was really a radical notion. These were workers that many folks thought were unorganizable.
I was working with the Department of Rehab, which was called DOORS. If you worked 40 hours a week, they would only give you so many hours, $3.35, then the other hours they would give you $1. They said it was just like you was babysitting watching the baby sleep. So they only paid you $1 an hour.
Those programs were set up specifically so that the state or the county or frankly the person could avoid the actual responsibility as the employer. So that was the challenge that we faced, but it was clear from the beginning that these women, primarily women of color, were ready to organize.
When we first started organizing home care workers, there was no money for anything. We did it in dingy offices on desks that, I don't know, we found in alleys or people donated. It was very much a community organizing model.
The first thing was, how do we, bring people together? It was hard because workers were spread out all over.
You were just yourself out there.
We just looked up home health agencies, going out to check pickups and finding out which companies had places where you could talk to workers.
You got a flyer in the mail, and it say, do you want higher wages and better benefits? So I said, oh yes. They didn't want us to unionize because they didn't want us to sit across the table and bargain with them. They wanted to be the one that tell us how much we should make. Not we tell them what we are doing and we deserve more pay.
McMade was about 200 workers. We had no members in Chicago at that time, so it was one of our first places to organize.
Local 880 was born out of the Acorn organization. That's how the idea got started. And that's how we started organizing by using a method of door knocking and getting them to come out.
We won 60% to 40%, and that was our first election victory in Chicago. We won that election because of the strength of our organizing as well as the strength of those leaders on the job.
When I left Mississippi, I was so quiet. I was a quiet person. I looked and I listened and I learned. When I started being involved with the union, and they was pushing me to talk and speak. Then it just came out of me. I said, wow, I used to be quiet as a mouse, but now I'm roaring like a lion. I'm roaring now.
By 1984, we had maybe 10, 15, 20 organizers nationally in 4 or 5 locals. We had big ambitions. United Labor Unions decided that we wanted to organize on a bigger scale, and that to do that, we decided to organize with SEIU.
Back in 1984, we made a decision to commit our money and our talent to saying we've got to reach out to workers all across America and welcome them into the union, because the dignity and respect that they wanted for their people they were serving, they realized they also deserved.
We had to speak out because they didn't realize how important the work we was doing was keeping seniors and people with disabilities out of institutions and keeping them in their own home, making them happy, making them feel like they was in control. We just felt bold. We just felt we was in the right.
Home care providers have saved this nation billions of taxpayer dollars every year because of the way in which they can provide incredibly effective, high-quality care in people's homes.
Since these folks were considered independent contractors, they were not covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act, and we got folks from $1 an hour up to $3.35 and into $3.50. We got a 15-cent raise on top of that. And that was one of our first legislative victories. Turned out that was the biggest employer of home care workers, Department of Rehabilitation Services at the time, about 2,000 workers.
That's when we started rolling. When you start talking to people face to face, then they listen to what you're saying. Because you know, they are here and they are looking at a person that's stating that fact of what's going on. I always say, could you imagine a little girl from the backwoods of Mississippi sitting in front of all of those state representatives, sitting up there, all of them dressed up in suits and stuff, looking dead at you, and you staring at them. That's what changed the $1 an hour, because they was really stunned. I wanted to help others as I helped myself.
We signed up members, we mobilized them, we did marches in Springfield. We were building a union, a community organization, and a political organization to raise the wages of our members and to win benefits.
SEIU made a commitment, and they said these are workers that need unions probably more than anybody else in the country. The important links between the labor movement and the women's movement, for me, have come full circle. Having a union that was willing to go out and organize women into the workforce, into the union, was really important, and SEIU did that at a time when very few unions were really reaching out to women.
When you think about those women who risked everything that they had to say, I'm going to stand up with my sisters in this struggle, I think it's still very relevant today.
It took us literally 10 years to create a home care authority so that these women had an opportunity to bargain for better wages, but also for their overall delivery of care.
How can you make a living if they don't pay you a living wage?
The 90s were a decade of breakthroughs. We established home care as being invisible no more. We helped lift and value family child care in a way that nobody imagined possible. That decade was the foundation for exploding the organization.
We fought so hard to get that union going, and because nobody wanted to be bothered with us until we started to add numbers. And we started adding numbers much faster than any other union that organized that many people,
Technically, we were not a union because we did not have the right to organize, but we acted like a union anyway, and finally got agreements. Every year, we would go back to the legislature with a cost of living increase. We didn't win an increase every year, but we won it on a regular basis.
It really was taking the experience in Chicago and basically seeing, could it be replicated at a rapid pace, in state after state, city after city. We could bring literally tens of, not hundreds of thousands of workers through that door.
Through our political work and our community work, other people were taking notice of what we were doing, not only in our labor organizing, and one of those was Barack Obama.
I actually knew SEIU before I was in politics. I started bumping into some folks from a union that I wasn't that familiar with at the time, Local 880. When I started seeing the determination with which they were asserting their dignity, then I realized that these were the kinds of folks that I wanted to ally myself to.
He said, you got two powers. You got money power, you got people power. That stuck with us. So we didn't have money, right? So we had the people. So that's what we would hit the street with, was the people. Because if you get the people to come together, you can beat the money.
When are your appointment with the eye doctor? I joined Local 880 in the early 2000s. Helen Miller was the president of the union. And she took me under her wing and she said, now you need to do this, you need to attend meetings, you need to go on lobby days.
Leaders like Flora Johnson made an incredible breakthrough in the media, our families, and our communities believing that home care work is an incredibly valuable role that allows seniors, the disabled, to stay in their homes.
I'm here to help make this a better place for other people other than myself or other than my family members. Everybody to me is a family member. Well, you have a good day and a good time, you know.
It was pretty amazing that we were able to not only win increases and build a union where we had no legal rights, but also then win the legal right to have the union.
Look at where we are now. We have been moving. And we didn't do this by just moving to a building. We moved our members up.
The rate increase campaigns brought folks up from $5, $6, $7 an hour to $9, $10, $11, $12. Next year, our home care workers at doors will be at $13 an hour. Plus, we've won paid holidays, paid vacations, transportation pay, and health care coverage to over 20,000 home care and child care workers who never had it before.
We organized hospital workers all across this country when it was against the law. And this union created the first family child care union in the whole United States. This organization has made the impossible possible many times.
SEIU today is 2.1 million members in the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. 1 in 3 workers within an SEIU today is either a home care worker or a child care provider.
We've done a damn good job as a union, but the fact is our members still live in poverty. The fight we have to wage today is about working people, people of color, immigrants, the LGBTQ community, the disability rights community, the environmental community. You know, everyone that sees injustice in this world need to make each other's fights their own fights. And I think that's how we achieve real freedom and progress.
You might get tired, but don't give up. Don't give up. Keep fighting. Because if we keep fighting and we keep caring and we keep sharing, things will work out. That's my belief. That's my belief.